What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here. Back again talking college football. And today we are breaking down the last mega slate of the year. This is Saturday, the 27th. We have an 8-game slate. Before we get started, if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like on the video. Those two things help a small channel like this immensely. It gets us in front of new viewers and helps us continue doing this. So thank you if you have done that. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We do talk sides and totals through these breakdowns, so just worth noting. Let's dive right in. There's a lot to get to. We're just going to go, I think, mostly in chronological order. Maybe one game is flipped there, but that brings us to the first contest. We have Pitt taking on East Carolina in the Military Bowl. This is played in Annapolis, Maryland. The spread is currently 10.5 points in favor of Pitt. The total is 53 points. Through these breakdowns, we will go first personnel coaching changes, then dive into resumes, finishing up with the actual on-field expectations and matchups. For Pittsburgh, they are losing their offensive coordinator, Cade Bell, more than likely. This game, he still should be there. He's been linked to a lot of SEC jobs. I'm not sure what's going to actually end up, but I know he's at least been fielding the calls. More importantly, there are some injuries for this team. Ryan Coretta was hurt in their last game. I think he's going to be back here. He plays one of the guard positions. Jimmy Scott on the edge got hurt after 5 snaps, and Sean Fitzsimmons has also been banged up at defensive tackle. With a month off, I actually think there's a decent chance all of them return. Desmond Reed is going to opt out of this game and go to the NFL. Kyle Lewis, their nickel linebacker hybrid, is going to go to the NFL. And Jules Goff, their backup running back, more like a third-string running back, he's in the transfer portal. We have more impactful opt-outs on East Carolina. They're losing both coordinators, so that is the first place to note, especially John David Baker's going to Ole Miss to take the OC job there. A couple offensive linemen have been banged up, mainly Penn to Askew, missed their last game at guard. Rashid Reason at corner has been out for a while, and their opt-outs include quarterback Caden Hauser, wide receiver Yannick Smith, tight end Javante Connor, and left tackle Jamarian McCrimmon. As far as resume goes, Pitt had a couple questionable losses. The biggest one was to West Virginia, who was not a bowl team. They also dropped the game to Louisville. They actually had a 52% chance to win that contest. Coin flip game there, and they got slaughtered by Notre Dame and Miami, kind of expected. Their wins against bowl teams included Central Michigan, NC State, and Georgia Tech. Best one being Georgia Tech. Other notable win, they beat Florida State by a field goal. East Carolina, games they lost included NC State, BYU, Tulane by a touchdown, and UTSA, they got blown out. This team beat Coastal Carolina, Army, and Memphis for their bowl-eligible wins. So there's a lot of opt-outs for East Carolina. We're going to start with the Pitt offense. Their freshman QB, Mason Heinstl, is back. No real risk of losing him at this point. 63% completion, 7.5 yards per attempt. He had 14 big-time throws, 15 turnover-worthy plays. He did take 28 sacks, which was a bit high. His pressure to sack ratio of 23% needs to come down. It's just kind of the common woes of a freshman quarterback. You have a few more negative plays than you'd like, but you kind of have to live with that as you develop a young kid for future seasons. There's a lot of good. There's just a little more bad than you'd like at this point, too. His wide receivers also dropped 7.5% of his passes. I thought that unit would be a little better this year. They didn't really add a lot, just Qatar 6, and all he did was put up 422 yards. But you had incumbents Kenny Johnson, Raphael Williams back. In this air raid offense, 695 yards for Johnson, 644 for Williams leaves a little bit to be desired. It kind of is what it is. At running back, Reed is off to the NFL. He also spent a lot of the year injured, so they finished 83rd in rushing efficiency. Kind of expecting that with Jakirian Turner back. 5.3 yards per carry for him was solid. He should lead a backfield. They're pretty thin at this position. The O-line was basically right on average. And they do have one absolute monster. Ryan Baer, their right tackle, is elite. And then their interior is pretty good too, especially with them returning Ryan Coretta. Their center, Lyndon Cooper, right guard, BJ Williams, are both strong. The only weak link is their left tackle, Jeff Percy. But the reason this unit gets dragged all the way down to average is Jeff Percy is atrocious. So you have to live with that. But now you're facing East Carolina's defense. This team did not have a great defense through the year. They were 89th, a little better in coverage. anytime they stepped up in competition, NC State, BYU, even Tulane, they got gashed through the air. The only teams that really got them on the ground were Memphis and UTSA, but you can still get this defense. The edge rushing group rotates 4 guys. 2 of them are awful. That's DJ Lampley and Raheem Craig. The 2 good guys are Josiah Robinson and Julian Davis. The interior is a little bit better with Preston Carr and Zion Wilson, but all in all, this unit rotates too much. And behind them, the linebacking room is a complete mess. Samuel Donka, Damian Wilson, DJ Johnson Jr. were all a mess. The backfield was actually pretty good. Tymir Brown, Jonathan Jean, Jamari Riddle, Tegan Wilk, Jordy Lowry, they were all very good, above average players at the least. The one thing you could say is not all of them were part-time players. They just rotated too many guys. Bottom line here, we do expect Pitt's offense to have success against East Carolina's defense. Now on the other side, Caden Hauser's in the portal, so they are allegedly going to play some combination of Mike Wright, the well-traveled Mike Wright, previously of Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Northwestern, been in college for 6 years. Never been a particularly good thrower of the ball. He has a 55 career completion percentage, 5.8 yards per attempt, 17 big-time throws, and 36 turnover-worthy plays. He just can't throw. Their other option is Chasten Dita, who is a low-level 3-star with 7 career pass attempts. He looks kind of mobile, I guess. I don't know. There is a huge drop-off at the QB position, which is really what was keeping this offense alive, because this East Carolina O-line is, let's say it leaves a lot to be desired. They're outside the top 100. Their left tackle opted out. Their left guard has been hurt. They have 1 above-average player in Emmanuel Poku. And now with, like, Jamarian McCrimmon was not very good at left tackle, and now you're going to some combination of Cooper Chernovsky, Jason Tarpe, and Bryce Weaver at your tackle positions. This is going to be a mess. And you lost one of your stud receivers. I'm assuming Anthony Smith plays. He did finish just shy of 900 yards, and Brock Spalding was okay. But you need to figure out who your third receiver is. Peyton Mangrum and Jaquaze Petaway were, at least from P4 programs, maybe they fill in just fine. Javonte Connor is gone, so DeCerio Riles is going to have to play a little bit more. And maybe they just rely on their run game, which I think is probably what they will do. Marlon Gunn is going to play in this game, 5.7 yards per carry for him. London Montgomery should as well. They combined for over 1,200 rushing yards and 21 catches. But they're going against a good Pitt defense that really has just one opt-out, their nickel. And they did a great job against almost everybody they played outside of Carson Beck and Tommy Castellanos, funny enough. They defended every rushing attack except Notre Dame well. They run a nasty rotation on this defensive line, but most of them are pretty good, especially the interior with Fitzsimmons, Brew, James, Whittington. They're going to use all 4. Their linebackers are elite with Biles and Lovelace. In their corners, I thought this was going to be a mess this year. They've been starting 2 freshmen, and I think they're probably going to use Sean Lee a little bit more, who has been awesome in spot duty. But like Cruz Brookins, their freshman safety, he is dominated this year. And then you fill out the gaps with Tamon Lynam, Rashad Battle. It's been a pretty good secondary. It's not easy to throw the ball. And East Carolina has been a pass-heavy team throughout parts of the season. They've embraced the run of late, and when they've been in positive game scripts, I could see this even going further in that direction. They were 92nd overall in pass rate this year, which is a surprise. But I think they're probably going to try to run. That's not really going to be an easy matchup. Both teams are struggling on special teams outside the top 75, inside the top 85. With all the opt-outs, injuries, this strongly favors Pitt. We took this at a -7.5, but we make it closer to 15. So I think you can play this. Total, we basically have spot on at 52.8. So we won't dilly-daddle. We got a lot of games to get into. We'll keep it moving. Clemson takes on Penn State. I wonder if this was anyone's national championship prediction at the beginning of the season. Probably was. This is the Pinstripe Bowl, played in the Bronx. Clemson is a 3-point favorite. The total is 48.5. There are no major coaching changes on the Clemson side. They do have a couple opt-outs. TJ Parker on the edge, Peter Woods at defensive tackle, DeMonte Capehart defensive tackle, Wade Woodaz at linebacker, Avion Terrell at corner, Khalil Barnes at safety, Shelton Lewis at safety. Colin Sadler's been, for some reason, I believe he's injured on the offensive line, and Antonio Williams at receiver. They also lost Bryant Wesco for the year at receiver with a neck injury. Olsen Pat Henry's been hurt at tight end, as has Jaheim Lawson on the edge. So this is a skeleton crew Clemson team, especially on defense. With Penn State, James Franklin was fired midseason. The one thing you can say is they still have Kotelnicki as their OC. He'll coach in the bowl game. Drew Aller's been injured for a while. They do have a slew of opt-outs as well. Nick Singleton at running back, Vega Ione at guard, Zariah Fisher, edge, Chance Coleman, edge, Zane Durant, defensive tackle. A couple lower-level guys that are mainly transferring, Alex Tatch at linebacker, A.J. Harris at corner, Elliott Washington at corner. Their stud safety, Zakee Wheatley, opted out too. So a lot of players gone for both teams. Schedule-wise, both disappointed. For Clemson, they lost to LSU by 7 points, Georgia Tech by 3. They actually had a 68% post-game win expectancy. Worst loss they took this year was to Syracuse, and then they got beat by SMU and Duke in that crazy OT game. Best wins came against Troy and Louisville by 1 point. They beat Louisville with a 13% post-game win expectancy. Really rough season for Clemson. Other notable wins, FSU and South Carolina, if you want to count those as notable. Penn State, it wasn't much better. The only bowl team they beat was Nebraska. Their other wins were Rutgers by 4 points, Michigan State, Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova. Their losses included Oregon by 6, UCLA by 5, Northwestern by 1 point. They should have won that game. Iowa by a point, and then they got blown out by Ohio State, lost to Indiana by 3. So edges here. Cade Klubnik is going to play in this game, allegedly. 66% completion percentage. I mean, he has nothing to lose. He ruined his draft stock far, far earlier this season, so he's got to kind of rehabilitate himself. It wasn't all his fault. His receivers dropped 20 passes. That was 8% of his on-target balls. He actually only had 8 turnover-worthy plays, 6 of them converted to interceptions, only 13 sacks. I'll say this. I think, first of all, he got hurt through the year, so that definitely didn't help his rushing. That plummeted at the end, but I don't really know if he was surrounded by the best supporting cast. This offensive line was basically 90th last year, somewhere around there. They were below average. And guess where they finished this year? 85th in pass blocking, 84th in run blocking. They rolled out the same guys. And generally, you take a slight step forward with experience and growth. They didn't even do that. They might even have taken a step back. In this game, their stud right tackle, Blake Miller, is going to play. Outside of him, I'm not sure there's an average player on this group. Like Tristan Lee has been horrifying at left tackle. He's been hurt this year. So if you want to make an excuse, it's there. Ryan Linthicum and Harris Sewell have been a mess on the interior. Colin Sadler hasn't been playing, so you're going to look at some combination of Dietrich Pennington or Ronan O'Connell playing in this game at their other guard position. They might even split snaps. I don't know. It's kind of a messy offensive line. In the skill position players, like they've had to ride Adam Randall, which has not gone well. 107th in rushing efficiency. He's been okay. 780 yards, 31 catches. He's a converted wide receiver. And part of the reason, it's not all him. Their freshman four-star Gideon Davidson has not been ready to play. He's at 4.4 yards per carry. The tandem has what's driven this down to 107th in rushing efficiency. Now, injuries to receiver definitely marred this offense. TJ Moore finished with 754 yards. Antonio Williams came in second, but he has been hurt for part of the year. Brian Wesco, he was hurt. So now you're looking at some combination of Tyler Brown, Cole Turner, and Tristan Smith stepping up. Brown has played a larger role before, but he only has 160 yards this year. Turner's always been sort of a rotational guy, and Smith is an FCS transfer. So I don't know. You're looking at a pretty weak group of skill position players across the board. Randall is going to play in this game, though, it looks like. Penn State's defense has a couple opt-outs on the edge, but this unit finished 30th, and Danny Denise Sutton is going to play. So you kind of just need to fill in the spot opposite Sutton, and they have a 4-star freshman, Yvonne Kamaju, who looks like he could be poised for a larger opportunity, flash on a small sample. But the interior, they lost more here. So no Durant. You're probably looking at Xavier Gilliam, Alonzo Ford, Ty Blanding. They rotated in and out a lot this year. So while the ceiling probably isn't there, there are at least snaps to be had, experience snaps. Linebacker was solid, Amari Campbell, Dominic DeLuca. Secondary lost their best player to opt out, Zakee Wheatley. But man, even like a King Mack at safety, Darius Dixon at corner, a Davian Collins at corner, those guys were solid enough. So you kind of just need 2 guys to fill the gaps who are most likely going to be Zion Tracy and DeJuan Lane. But I'm not going to lie, like the best player of this defense is playing in the game against that horrific Clemson offensive line. I'm a little worried about like what Danny Denise Sutton is going to do to Fisher. Should be okay on him, or excuse me, Blake Miller. But Tristan Lee, I mean, if he lines up against Danny Denise Sutton, this could be chaos. On the Penn State side, Ethan Grunkemeyer actually got a little better at quarterback. He finished with a 69% completion percentage, 7.4 yards per attempt, only 4 big-time throws, 5 turnover-worthy plays. They weren't asking him to do a ton. 12 sacks, it was a little bit high. His pressure to sack ratio was up around 20%. But I'm not sure he was working with the best cast of skill players. They basically got nothing out of their receivers this year. So, I don't know, man. They paid a lot of money for Trevor Pena. He finished with 452 yards. Devontae Ross, 417. Kyron Hudson, 288. They don't have anyone to throw to. Their tight ends all disappointed this year. You had like Luke Reynolds eventually getting benched. Their run game did actually perform well, but it was mostly Katron Allen. So that needs to be said. No Nick Singleton in this game, but they've been able to ride Allen. He has 6.2 yards per carry, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 18 receptions. I mean, my goodness. He's not the best third down back. That was typically Singleton's role, but he can do it. So I think they're probably just going to try to ride the run game. And the offensive line was awesome. They were top 15 this year, only losing Vega Ione for this game. So your tackles should be intact. Rucci and Shelton, Dawkins and Dunko are solid on the interior at center and guard. And then even TJ Shanahan, who should be the backup for this game, now plugged into the starting lineup. He has a lot of experience. So I'm not super worried about that unit overall. And they should just try to run the ball down Clemson's throat, who's down so much on the defensive line. I guess you still have Will Helt on the edge. He had a pretty good year, the Purdue transfer. But no Lawson, no Parker on the edge. Cade Denoff is going to have to play. I mean, Stephylan Green and Vic Burley are going to play on the inside because you lose some players there. I mean, this D-line is losing 3 starters, basically. And then linebacker, you have no Wade Woodaz, so Sammy Brown and Kobe McLeod are going to have to step up. I think that's a fine unit. Woodaz didn't have the best season, so I'm not super worried. But then your best corner is gone. And who do we have there? Like Ashton Hampton, Ricardo Jones? But, I mean, what made them decent in the secondary was Terrell was like a shutdown guy. You could put him on opposing number ones. He did a pretty good job. They finished 58th in coverage. There were holes when he was in the lineup. Now you're putting another hole in there. I don't really think Penn State's going to try to throw much, but if they do, I think they have a few advantages here. The reason this comes in as a lean and not a bet is there's a lot of NFL guys on this team. There's a lot of NFL guys that still could opt out. We're going to push this to kickoff, but I'm probably going to take a Penn State side. As for the total, we have this a little bit higher. We make it 50. Again, I hesitate with the uncertainty in the game. Army versus UConn. This is the Fenway Bowl played in Boston. Army is a 9-point favorite. The total is 44. How did this happen? Well, UConn lost their coach, and a lot of players are in the portal. Now, some of them will probably play, not all. Here's what we know. Joe Fainano is in the portal at quarterback, Mel Brown at running back, Victor Rosa running back, MJ Flowers running back, Alex Honig tight end, Juice Vereen tight end, Ben Murawski tackle, Brady Wayburn guard, Carson Cassidy tackle, Vincent Carroll Jackson defensive tackle, Umar Diomande linebacker, Cam Chadwick corner, Osiris Gilbert corner. Not to mention Tyrese Mills has been hurt at corner. Who do we even have playing for this team? Meanwhile, Army is Army. Carson Smith is the only injury, but kids don't transfer out of Army. Kids don't opt out of Army. They don't change their coach very often. This team is going to be 100%. So you go to the body of work, like Army has a couple good wins. They beat Kansas State. They beat UTSA. I guess that is only one win against bowl teams. They lost to Tarleton in week 1. Don't be confused by that. Tarleton's a good FCS team, and Army's still at a 67% post-game win expectancy. Also, played North Texas close. They lost, but it was a touchdown game. ECU, they got blown out, but that came down to drops. They had a couple back-breaking drops. Tulane, they lost by a touchdown. Tulsa, they lost by a point. As for UConn, bowl-eligible teams they beat were Florida International and Duke. They also beat Boston College, but they lost to Syracuse, respectively, by a touchdown. Delaware by 3. They had a 73% post-game win expectancy. And Rice. There were a couple concerning victories. They only beat Ball State by single digits, Buffalo by 3. Those were early season games, but it wasn't all pretty for UConn. They won a lot of shootouts. So Army's running the triple option. Cale Helms is not going to pass the ball. He'll rush the ball 30 times if he has to. They're not an efficient rushing attack, 1/12. But as long as they get more than 3 yards per carry, they're good. And that's kind of what they've done. Cale Helms is at 4.1. He has over 1,100 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns. There's not a lot behind him. Second leading rusher is Noah Short with 556. Hayden Reed comes in at 335. They're going to run Helms until they cannot anymore. Receiver, I guess, if you want to talk about it, Brady Anderson, 381. Noah Short, that slot backs at 330. They rarely throw. So can this offensive line pave the way? I think the answer is yes. They're actually getting better. They're 93rd in pass blocking, which doesn't matter, but 5th in run blocking. And they got back their right guard for their last game against Navy, Paolo Generelli. So now you have Will Jeffcoat, Brady Small, Generelli, Teddy Williams are all elite. The only guy who struggled at times was left tackle Henry Appleton, and he was still above average. This is a great O-line. UConn was already 111th in total run defense. Their only defensive line opt-out was actually defensive tackle and Vincent Carroll Jackson. That's not good. But this unit still should be okay. My main problem is they rotate like 8-9 guys here. And most of the good ones are on the inside, but Stefan Wright, Trent Jones II, they're just not playing enough for it to be a big difference maker. And then I don't think you're going to see Diamande at linebacker. Byron Parham is not opted out, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play. If he does play, he's elite, so that's worth noting. And then your secondary, you're going to have to stop the run for sure. That's not their strength. It's going to be tough, man. UConn has really good full-time starters in the secondary, and 4 of them are back, at least for this game, according to reports. Pringle, Brinson, McLean, and Millette. But their strength is coverage. So that's at least a question. I will say, likely only 2 starting opt-outs on defense. With this much time to prepare, it wouldn't be crazy to see UConn get some stops. I'm just a little concerned by that run defense ranked outside the top 100. Anyway, we go to UConn's offense. So Fernando's not playing. There are rumors that Nick Evers is not going to play either, the Wisconsin transfer. And then they also let it slip that Tucker McDonald, the third stringer, is battling an injury. There have been reports that 4-star freshman Kassan Ferrara is going to start. I don't know. He's a decent 3-star recruit, actually, and he has a dual threat ability. There's going to be a major drop-off no matter who starts. But I think in order of operations, you want Evers to be out there. The real problem with him is he's been really prone to turnovers. But even if we get like Ferrara out there, I wouldn't be super scared. He runs a bit, and I imagine the offense just tries to change. But part of the reason I'm not really scared is like Cam Edwards, their stud running back who is in the portal, he said he's going to play. 5.7 yards per carry, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, caught 19 balls. You could have a last-second opt-out, but it's his word. Also, All-American receiver Skylar Bell said he's going to play. He finished with 1,278 yards. Again, late second opt-outs occur, but I don't care who you are. Like, get the ball in the vicinity of those players, and you should look a little bit better than you would otherwise. And then Romello Murphy, John Nieder, they've both been linked to playing in this game. Neither opted out. Lewis Hansen remains a tight end. Like, this is kind of a sneaky unit. The O-line is a little bit more concerning to me because you have 3 starters in the portal. Your interior should be all right. Kyle Juergens, Wes Ho are full-time starters. Ty Chan played 426 snaps in relief at guard. So now you kind of just need to account for the tackles. The most likely guys to play are Torian Johnson and Tank Green. They're wildly inexperienced, so that's a problem. But Army's defense is 119th, 121st in pass rush, 132nd in 121st in run defense, 132nd in pass rush, and 103rd in coverage. They don't really have a lot of strengths. Jack Boosum on the edge, Cody Harris-Miller, defensive tackle. They're close to average, I guess. Not great, though. Linebackers, Andon Thomas and Caleb Fortner are horrible. Secondary is very weak outside of Casey Larkin. Like, you can move the ball. I'm tentatively going to take UConn. If this gets to 10, I'm going to take it. I just think people are going to come into this game surprised when they find out more of UConn's guys are playing than expected. Again, last time I'll say it, they can change their minds. Just because you say you're playing in the game on Tuesday the week before doesn't mean you didn't change your mind in 10 days. So that is what it is. Fresno State takes on Miami, Ohio. This is the Arizona Bowl played in Tucson. 6-point spread in favor of Fresno State. Total is 41. No major coaching changes for Fresno. A couple injuries. Martin Owusu at defensive tackle has been out for a while. Torian Penwright, same on the O-line. Kavion Thunderbird missed the last couple games at linebacker. And then Ryan Wilson at safety didn't play in their last game. Rayshon Luke got hurt in the finale at running back. Edward Funa got hurt at guard in the finale. Both of them could be back. That's what the coaching staff said. We will see. And then Jake Tarwater is going to be out at tight end. There are a couple of potential opt-outs, like Luke, of course, is one. He is a bright future ahead. And then Finn Claypool and Elzilian Hamilton, their corner, were their two best players. We'll see. As for Miami, Ohio, no coaching changes, but 2 linebacker injuries. Corbin Hondrew missed the conference championship, and Malcolm McLean only made it through 5 snaps. This team has confirmed opt-outs. DeQuan Finn hasn't played in a month. He decided to opt out early. Drew Terrell's in the portal. Cam Perry's in the portal. That's a receiver and a offensive lineman. Adam Trick on the edges in the portal. Josh Lasuka on the edges in the portal. Mekhi Yarbrough at corners in the portal. Luke Evans at corners in the portal. A lot of guys in the portal for Miami, Ohio. That's why Fresno's taking some money. To get here, Fresno beat Georgia Southern, Hawaii, and Boise. They did lose to Kansas, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Utah State. None of those losses are very forgiving. Like, the best one is Utah State. They got beat by double digits. They got shut out by San Diego State. And losing to Colorado State is horrible. Miami, Ohio, they did beat Western Michigan. That's their only bowl-eligible win. They got beat by Wisconsin, Rutgers. They lost to UNLV in OT. Probably should have won that game. And then they lost to all of the good teams in the MAC again. Ohio, Toledo, and I say again because they played Western Michigan for the title, got beat by 10. So Fresno's offense, they have not named a QB. E.J. Warner's the most likely starter after he returned to the lineup. He'd been benched. Carson Conklin was horrible. So they go back to E.J. Warner. He's kind of a game manager. His completion percentage is 70%. They don't really ask him to do a lot, 7.1 yards per attempt. 8 big-time throws, 14 turnover-worthy plays, and 16 sacks. That's why he got benched. He was just making too many negative plays. But, I mean, Conklin, his completion percentage was 50%. I mean, we can't have that. But whether it was Conklin or Warner, the receivers weren't very good. 23 drops for this unit is a real problem. They finished 114th in receiving efficiency. Not good. And their leading receiver was Josiah Freeman. 499 yards is a real problem. Their second leading receiver was Richie Anderson at 273. And then their running back, Rayshon Luke, was third. They just couldn't really throw the ball. And they kind of stopped trying at the end of the year. There's some ridiculous props out there for the rushing game for Fresno State. Rayshon Luke was awesome when he was out there, 6.4 yards per carry. But they kind of have a deep backfield. Bryson Donaldson, he's played a lot, finished with 580 yards. Jonathan Arsenault, 7.1 yards per carry. Brandon Ramirez, 4.4. Elijah Gilliam, 6.3. Coming into the year, everyone thought Gilliam was going to start. So, I mean, they're kind of deep at this position, even if Luke doesn't play. And then offensive line is great for Fresno State. They have one weak link. It's their left tackle, Braden Walton. That's because Torian Penwright got hurt. So you go across this unit, Jacob Spomer's an elite center. Your right side's pretty good with Polendo and Fullwood. Your left guard is a little dicey because Fuana got hurt. So we'll see on his status. I don't know. But even if he is out, Braylon Henderson kind of acquitted himself well. I kind of think they just have a lot of success moving the ball. Like Miami, Ohio was 53rd in rushing defense. They're losing 2 guys off the edge who are awesome, and Trick and Lakusa. Now you're playing Job is going to play more. He was a former 4-star, so that's at least worth noting. But then it's James Schott. Inside, you'll have Nasir Washington. He's going to have to step up. But we don't even know if Malcolm McLean and Corbin Hondrew are going to play. Now, Jackson Kuwatch was elite at linebacker, so maybe it doesn't matter that much. And Oscar McWood actually has 300 snaps. But, man, they could be weaker up front. Secondary, I think, will be fine. Eli Blakey, Silas Walters, Quay Beasley, pretty good there. They have 2 weak links. But, again, Fresno's not super interested in throwing. I do think Fresno moves the ball. As for Miami, Ohio's offense, you lose DeQuan Finn to cowardice. Then you go to Henry Hassan. He plays so bad. They turn to Thomas Gajewski the next game. He actually looks pretty good, but he just keeps getting hurt. Currently, Gajewski has a 49% completion, 7.7 yards per attempt, 7 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, only 3 sacks. He just keeps getting hurt. He's at a month, so maybe this will help him, but I'm kind of expecting him to go. He's just better than Hassan, and he actually can lead a competent offense. But now you lose. So first of all, they already lost Kenny Tracy, so they had to move to Jordan Brunson at running back. That did not help. They dropped to 102nd in rushing efficiency. I mean, they've occasionally used like Keith Reynolds at running back. He's a receiver. They'll just put him out there like a Deebo Samuel. And then this receiving room should be significantly weakened without Perry. He was almost at 1,000 yards, 966. So you're looking more Cole Weaver. He finished with 599. Reynolds, maybe Deion Colsey, the Notre Dame transfer, will finally do anything. But one of the problems is Miami, Ohio was running 4 wide almost every play. They were not using a tight end. Now you lose your number 1 receiver. Do we actually see some tight end? I don't know. But their offensive line is also tough, man. They're 130th in pass blocking, 46th in run blocking. They just lost their best O-lineman, Drew Terrell. I mean, they're going to be really weak there, I think. And they already were weaker inside. Eric Smith, he was atrocious at right guard. Greg Smith was a liability at left guard. The only guys that are decent are Chris Manu and Austin Uke. You got 2 of them. Going up against a Fresno defense, which admittedly finished 55th because they were really good in coverage. They were not good in run defense. But now you're kind of playing a really limited offense without most of their good players, their top 3 players at least. I kind of think that the edge group at least has some juice that maybe we haven't seen. Like Corey Foreman's a former 4-star. Jazon Jackson was all right. Losing Martin Owusu definitely hurt them inside, but they have good linebackers. Jaden Pearson, Titus Kajabi were okay. And then the secondary was so strong because Alzeli and Hamilton played this year. Simeon Harris was also pretty good. So it's a good secondary. I don't really think Miami is a huge threat in this game. I'll say this, though. I lean Fresno State. We actually make this a little closer than the spread would indicate. We basically have it -5, even with the opt-outs. It's just, I don't really see it, man. Like the model makes assumptions, and obviously it's more fragile when you're using players that don't really have a sample, like most of the players that are going to play for Miami, Ohio. I think it could get off the rails. So we're going to hesitate here. Make the total right around 45. Not a ton of value there. Not at least anything worth taking. Pace is really bad, both outside the top 100. So we'll wait and see. BYU, Georgia Tech. This is the infamous Pop-Tarts Bowl, and we actually have a treat. Very few opt-outs. BYU, no major coaching changes. Buster Faulkner is going to leave Georgia Tech for Florida's OC, but pretty intact there. We'll get into the opt-outs, but this is looking pretty good. BYU's a 3.5-point favorite. The total's 56. Really just LJ Martin had shoulder surgery for BYU, so he's not going to play. But, I mean, like, it looks like Chase Roberts is going to play. He was hurt at the end of the year. It looks like Kayan Need could be back. He missed the conference championship. He's a tight end. Everyone else allegedly is going to play for BYU. For Georgia Tech, a couple injuries. Ethan McKinney got hurt in their last game, only 8 snaps. Akello Stone didn't play at defensive tackle, nor Jai Gilmore at corner. And then Clayton Powell-Lee at safety got hurt within their last game. But it looks like they're going to return most of those guys. And then everyone you're worried about, Haynes King, playing. Jamal Haynes, allegedly playing. Eric Rivers, Malik Rutherford, Keelan Rutledge. Unless we're getting some lies from the coaching staff, this is going to be a mostly intact game. So buckle up. It's going to be a good one. To get here, BYU beat East Carolina, Arizona by 6, Utah by 3, Iowa State by double digits, and TCU by blowout, as well as Cincinnati by 12. They only have a couple questionable wins. The Colorado game, they did win, but 30% win expectancy. And Iowa State was actually at 38-2. But mostly this team took care of business. Their losses both came to Texas Tech. 29-7, 34-7. Really good season for BYU. Georgia Tech, however, they got by. Man, they have 3 wins against bowl-eligible teams. Clemson, 32% post-game win expectancy. Wake Forest, 22% post-game win expectancy. And Duke, the only win they should have against bowl teams, at least among their actual wins, was Duke. Now, they played Georgia very close. They actually, despite losing by 7, they had a 72% post-game win expectancy, so that's kind of hard. But they also got beat by Pittsburgh and NC State. So Georgia Tech, they dug their own grave. Let's start with BYU. Bear Bachmeier had an ankle sprain in their last game, but looks like he's going to be fine. 64% completion percentage. The big problem here, 12 big-time throws, 18 turnover-worthy plays, and 16 sacks. Now, JoJo Phillips was horrible when he played. He was responsible for many of the 20 drops, the 8.2% of drop passes that Barrett Bachmeier had to suffer through. Passing stats would look a lot better if it weren't for that. But the pass game is 2 guys. It's Chase Roberts, who I think is going to play, but he's been hurt, and it's Parker Kingston. I guess you can include tight end Carson Ryan in there. He did have 500 yards. But they have not been able to find a wide receiver 3, whether it's been Cody Hagan, JoJo Phillips. They're basically playing with 10 guys out there because that third wide receiver spot has been so bad. And now the other big change you're making, no LJ Martin. They were 35th in total rushing efficiency. Bachmeier had something to do with that. He is the team's second leading rusher. But now you're going probably to some combination of Sion Moa, who spent most of the year hurt, Enoch Nawahine. He's definitely not the answer. But Moa at least had 5.2 yards per carry on the very small sample. So we'll hold some hope out they can still run. The O-line is a quality unit. They do not have a weak link. They do rotate both their guards, but all 4 of them are pretty solid. Center Bruce Mitchell leads the team. Good tackles with Jota and Gentry. You still should be able to run. It's probably not quite as efficient without Martin, but Bachmeier there. Just follow your holes and you'll be okay. Then use your receivers through the explosive plays that they've already generated. And it's not like Georgia Tech's defense is good. This is a team ranked 104th in total defense. The only above average edge rusher was Braden Manley. AJ Hoffler was atrocious this year. They're a little better inside with like Vandenberg, Alexander, and Jason Moore. Their linebackers were basically right on average. They both have their strengths and weaknesses with EJ Lightsey and Kyle Efford. Secondary had some problems. I mean, like Amari Harvey and Omar Daniels were good, but Kelvin Hill and Clayton Powell-Lee were awful. So, I mean, you can score on Georgia Tech. Most teams have, other than Georgia, which is kind of self-inflicted. But anyway, Haynes King is going to play. This guy's a warrior. Last game, 71% completion percentage, 8.3 yards per attempt, only 3 turnover-worthy plays all year, only 10 sacks. He does not take negatives. He's a warrior. He leads the team with 922 yards. I hope they get him to 1,000. 5.2 yards per carry. 2 running backs to help him. Malachi Hosley, 7.3 yards per carry. Jamal Haynes has sort of worked as a pass-catching back. They have over 1,100 yards combined. Haynes alone in 31 catches. I mean, they used 4 to 5 receivers. None of them really stood out as the alpha, but they were all productive. Eric Rivers, Isaiah Canyon, Malik Rutherford, Jordan Allen. All of them rotated, and it gives them depth. The offensive line's a bit up and down. They're weaker than BYU by quite a bit. But they were really good on the right side with Keelan Rutledge at guard, Malachi Carney at tackle. Their center, this is a problem. Tana Ala Tupola has been atrocious. They used 2 right guards in Harrison Moore and Joe Fusile. They were kind of okay. And then Ethan McKinnon got hurt at the end of the year. And if he can't go, there was a large drop-off to Jamison Riggs, the backup. So that remains to be seen. But for BYU's defense, this unit was also better in coverage. They were 79th in run defense. That's a concern for me against this Georgia Tech offense. It's going to run their quarterback incessantly. And I guess like Logan Latuli and Bodie Schoonover were okay on the edge. The interior is definitely weaker. The only good player there is John Taumapeo. Otherwise, like Keanu Tanuvasa was pretty bad there. Their linebacking position was kind of a mess. Isaiah Glasker. Interestingly, they kind of rotated guys at the end of the year. Jack Kelly and CL Acer were a little better. And then the secondary, of course, was the strength. Evan Johnson, Tanner Well, Faletau Salatula. That's going to be their strength. But, I mean, like, Georgia Tech doesn't care. They're just going to try to run the ball with Haynes King and those RBs. Situationally pass. So, I don't know. I can see it going both ways. Special teams, even. BYU's 3rd, Georgia Tech is 14th. I'm a little bit concerned about this resume for Georgia Tech and the ACC. I do think the Big 12 was better than the ACC through and through. Now, maybe the ACC was better at the top with Miami, but I kind of lean BYU here. That hook is tripping me up. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up taking this unless it maybe moves or we get an opt-out, but that's where we stand now. We currently have the total at 57, so not a ton of value there either, but that's where we are. San Diego State, North Texas. This is the New Mexico Bowl played in Albuquerque. No major coaching change for San Diego State. Couple injuries, though. Tano Latuli at linebacker. He's been out like half the year. Jaden Denegal is not going to play the QB. He's some sort of surgery. Jordan Napier and Jacob Bostic are both hurt at receiver, too. The big guys to watch for opt-outs, Lucky Sutton, of course, at running back. Trey White on the edge. Owen Chambliss at linebacker. And Chris Johnson, their stud corner. I think they're all going to play. That's at least the vibes, but we don't know for sure. For North Texas, Eric Morris, their head coach, is off to OK State. A couple injuries. Johnny Dixon got hurt in the conference championship after 39 snaps. Caleb Hawkins got hurt after 17. Most people are expecting them to play. And the weird thing with North Texas, they don't have any opt-outs. They have a lot of guys in the portal, but their coaching staff indicated a lot of them are going to play, including Mestemaker. So, I mean, you got to watch for like Hawkins' injury, and a couple of the defensive tackles didn't indicate one way or the other. So that would be Sadiq Clements or Jaden Williams. But I mean, this North Texas team should be relatively full strength, and they've taken money. And as long as we get pregame confirmation, I'm probably going to take this team. So resume-wise, San Diego State lost to Washington State, Hawaii, and New Mexico. The only one that should have flipped was maybe New Mexico. They had a 75% post-game. They did shut out Cal, which was cool, and they beat Boise State by 10. Those were their only 2 bowl-eligible wins. North Texas, they got blown out by South Florida. And Tulane, it was a relatively close game. They were affected by the rain. It was the conference championship. Beat Western Michigan by 3, blew out Washington State, beat Army by its score. UTSA, they blew out. Navy, they beat pretty handily. Same with Rice. So let's start with the San Diego State offense. They have more change, but honestly, the offense shouldn't look that different. They're going from Denegal to Burt Emanuel Jr., the Central Michigan transfer. He's a run-first QB. They weren't asking Denegal to do anything other than game manage anyway. So there's probably going to be a drop-off through the air because Burt Emanuel's at 53 career completion percentage. But, I mean, honestly, 7.9 yards per attempt, 6 big-time throws, 5 turnover-worthy plays. It's not that bad. But his main problem is he's taken 37 sacks. He hasn't played that much, so this pressure-to-sack ratio of 37% is astronomical. Now, he's going to be under some pressure in this game, more than likely. That's the biggest concern. But he's a really good runner. He's at nearly 6.0 yards per carry in his career. He's almost at 1,000 career rushing yards, which is crazy for a guy who's basically been a backup his whole career. And it looks like Lucky Sutton's going to play. 5.2 yards per carry for him. If he doesn't, like Christian Washington and Byron Cardwell are pretty good change of pace backs. They should be able to run the ball. Receiver is very weak. Donovan Brown remains, but you're going to need Mikey Welsh or Nathan Acevedo to step up. They're going to try to run the ball. This O-line, they have one weak link. It's their weak link. It's their left guard, Kalen Ellis. Top guy is their center, Ross Ulugalu Masuli. Tackles are pretty good with Christian Jones and Joseph Bourgeon. I'm fully expecting this to be the 3 clouds and a dust offense from San Diego State, which on paper matches up better than most teams against North Texas. Where North Texas has struggled has been against run-based teams. The only QB that's beat them badly was Byron Brown. Otherwise, their run D really faltered down the stretch. They at least allowed 4.6 yards per carry or more in 4 of their last 5. They allowed over 5.4 in 3 of those 5. And it was already a weakness before they had Sadiq Clements and Jaden Williams elect to go to the portal. No word on whether they play. Fortunately, their edge group is good, so you kind of got to patch that interior. Ethan Day, Bryson Hayes are all right. Their linebackers, Trey Fields and Ethan Wisłowski, are maybe the best duo in the conference. Secondary has one weak link in Quentin Hammonds, but the rest is good. David Fisher, Devon Armstead, Will Jones, Patrick Smith-Young. Quality unit. But it's not just that. The offense, Drew Mestemaker is awesome. 70% completion percentage, 9.9 yards per attempt for this season. 25 big-time throws, 12 turnover-worthy plays, only 19 sacks. I mean, it looks like Hawkins is going to try to play 6.2 yards per carry, over 1,200 rushing yards, 26 touchdowns, 29 receptions. If he can't go, it's going to be Mackenzie Gill and Kiefer Sibley in some sort of tandem. Wyatt Young is going to play in this game, allegedly, 1,200 receiving yards. Cam Dorner, 845. Miles Coleman, 536. Even Landon Sides and tight end Trey Williams. I mean, this offense is unstoppable at this kind of level. Playing a Mountain West team. O-line is top 20. No weak link across the board. Gabe Blair led the group, but even like probably your biggest concern, Johnny Dixon, injury. Desmond McGuire was fine in his place, and he's going to play next to some quality players. So, I mean, this North Texas offense should hum. My real question is, San Diego State's been an awesome defense. They're top 10. They have a shutdown corner in Chris Johnson. Can they do enough? And I think the answer is no, but I'm not 100% sure. The only QB that got them even a little bit was Micah Alejado. No one else was above 6.9 yards per attempt. And New Mexico was kind of the only team that really ran the ball on them, 5.2 yards per carry. No one else was above 4.4, but it wasn't the best schedule. So what does this offense do against the San Diego State defense? So Trey White's great on the edge. The edge group is awesome. Ryan Henderson, Brady Nassar. Interior is a little weaker, but Sam Benjamin and Malachi Fina are above average for sure. Their linebacker, Owen Chambliss, is a stud. Mr. Williams is above average next to him. And Chris Johnson's going to be in the NFL. So Bryce Phillips and Dwayne McDougal are great. And Eric Butler and Dallashawn Staley are not far behind. I still think the edges belong to North Texas. Special teams almost dead even between these teams. But if you're going to give me Drew Messamaker, I'm going to take him in this game. Just going to wait for a last-second confirmation. Let's go to the Gator Bowl. Virginia takes on Missouri in Jacksonville. 3.5-point spread in favor of Missouri. The total is 45 points. This game should be pretty intact too. So for Virginia, no major coaching changes. The only opt-out, I think, is Jason Prevert at corner. The other potential opt-outs like Jamari Taylor, Trell Harris, Chandler Morris, they look like they're going to play. Mikhail Boley at tackle did get hurt in the conference championship. Cam Robinson didn't play in that game either. So a pretty healthy Virginia team, mostly intact. Missouri lost their OC, Kirby Moore. He's taking the Washington State job. And one of their guards, Curtis Piegler, got hurt in their finale. They do have some transfers. Backup running back Marquise Davis. Bo Pribula at quarterback is a big one. Josh Manning at receiver. Marquise Johnson at receiver. And so far, it looks like most of the other opt-out players, at least opt-out risks, are going to play. We'll see. Schedule, resume. Virginia beat Coastal Carolina. They beat Florida State. Those are somewhat notable. They should have lost to Florida State, actually, 35% post-game. They beat Louisville by 3 with a 10% post-game win expectancy. They beat Washington State by 2 with a 45% post-game win expectancy. I mean, talk about running hot. And then they beat Cal and Duke. And the funny thing is, Duke got revenge on them in the conference championship and ended up holding them out of the playoffs. They also lost to Wake Forest and NC State. So far from a perfect body of work for Virginia. Missouri beat Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. That's mostly ineligible bowl teams. It's mostly the bottom of the SEC, but they're still good teams. Their losses, this is kind of what does them some favors. They lose to Alabama by 3, but should have won. 72% post-game win expectancy. Vanderbilt by 7 in a game their QB got hurt. Oklahoma by 9. The only game that got blown out in was Texas A&M. So starting with Virginia, I mean, the offense should be humming. Chandler Morris is going to play 64.5% completion, 7 yards per attempt, 17 big-time throws, 12 turnover-worthy plays, only 14 sacks. And it could be even better. His receivers dropped 7.5% of his passes, 21 total drops. And it was an excellent season for Morris. He also did a fair amount on the ground. This is a good offense. Jamari Taylor was a diamond in the rough running back that ended up really blossoming into a full-time role. 4.8 yards per carry, over 1,000 yards, 43 catches for this guy. That's incredible. And then the receiving game also exceeded expectation with Trell Harris, Jamal Edrin, and Cam Ross, all of them above 500 yards, and Harris was at 847. They go 3 deep there. Even Sage Enos was all right at tight end. O-line has just been through it all, man. They've been battling attrition throughout the whole season. We'll have to see if Boley plays. According to their head coach, he played through that high ankle sprain in the conference championship on single-day rest. He's a warrior, man. I don't know. If he can't play, it obviously would leave him vulnerable. Ben York is not a great replacement, and then his counterpart, Jack Whitmer, is the weakest player on the O-line. But the interior is good. Even if Mikhail Boley doesn't play, it's not a glaring red flag. But anyway, Missouri's defense is awesome. And they don't have any opt-outs. Not at least among the good players. So I'm a little worried about this. Not only because Virginia hasn't faced a team like this, but this defense got after some of the better offenses in the SEC. The only guys that really exceeded expectation were Sellers, which was wild, and Marcel Reed. Texas A&M could run a little bit. Vandy could run a little bit, but I mean, they mostly held up across the way. The D-line has 2 NFL edge rushers in Zion Young and Damon Wilson. Inside, they're pretty good with McClellan and Webb. You have 2 good linebackers in Trotter and Rodriguez. The only real problem with the defense is their secondary struggled to find a consistent 5. But Dre Norwood was awesome. Toriano Pride did get benched at one point, but he finished strong. Marvin Burks at safety was good. Jalen Catalon ended up playing a reduced role for Santana Banner. That didn't really go well. Catalon should probably have gotten a look again. But the only weak link was really Stephen Hall. This is a good defense. And special teams. They're 16th in special teams. But then when Missouri has the ball, the real concern with them is just what are they doing at QB? Matt Zollers did not play well. It was against much better competition than this. 50% completion percentage, 5.7 yards per attempt. One big time throw, one turnover worthy play, 3 sacks. Receivers did drop 4 passes. That was 10%. He just didn't play a lot. So Zollers, I mean, they're going to take a look at him, see if he can be the guy of the future. He was the 3rd stringer this year. I don't know. But the O-line is awesome, and no one opted out here. Caden Green and Keegan Trost both probably have seasons in the NFL ahead of them. Neither of them have opted out. Dominic Gadis is still there at left guard. Weaker links are Connor Tullison and Curtis Piegler, and both are well above average. Run game, Ahmad Hardy, you can just lean on this if you want. They were 7th in rushing efficiency. He had 1,560 yards. And Jamal Roberts is kind of their change of pace 3rd down back. He was good too. Awesome receivers, even with Johnson and Manning in the portal. Kevin Coleman was great. Donovan Oligbode, their freshman 4-star, really blossomed at the end of the year. And they have the ability to use a lot of 12 personnel if they want, with Brett Norfleet, Jude James, and Jordan Harris. Virginia's defense played above expectation, I would argue. 15th overall, but I mean, now you're facing a team that probably just going to try to run the ball down your throat. The weaker part of this Virginia defense was up front. The edge group was awesome with Mitch Melton, Daniel Reichert, and Fisher K-Mac, but the interior basically was just Jacob Holmes. And then you lost Cam Robinson. I'm not sure if he's going to play at linebacker, so Maddox Marcellus had to play. He played okay in his spot, but James Jackson was a weak link at linebacker. Secondary is still solid. We'll see here. Excuse me for a second. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Give me one. I don't think that's ever happened to me on the stream. All right. Sorry about that. Kind of a good point, because now we can circle back to that was the game. Yeah, we did all of this work. Sorry, that was kind of right at the end. Anyway, a lot of advantages for Missouri. Their defense has the advantage. They're a little better on special teams. And I think if you could get a decent amount of play or decent level of play out of Zollers, the offense would be pretty close to even, because this run game is so dynamic already. You just kind of need game management at the QB position. I'm leaning Missouri right now. If this gets to 3, I'm going to play it, might play it regardless. Let's get to the final game. This is the Texas Bowl in Houston. Yes, Houston basically is a home game. It is what it is. I like Houston a lot in this game for reasons other than the home site, but currently we have a 2.5-point spread and a 40 total. Not the most exciting game on paper, but maybe I can argue you into it. So new head coaching staff for LSU. It's Lane Kiffin. Tons of opt-outs, tons of injuries. Garrett Nussmeier's hurt. AJ Halsey at safety is questionable. Opt-outs include Ahmad Bro at defensive tackle, Sydir Mitchell defensive tackle, Ashton Stamps at corner, 2 backup running backs in Juwan Johnson, Caleb Jackson, 2 offensive linemen in Carius Kern and Cone Eccles, a receiver, Aaron Anderson, a linebacker, Harold Perkins, 2 linebackers actually, Whit Weeks included, and their best corner, Mansour Delane. A few others undecided and may opt out. It's just maybe 30% to 40% of their starters are out. Houston, no coaching changes, no opt-outs, 2 injuries. Demetrius Hunter at guard. He hasn't been with the team for a while now. He left in November. And then Khalil Laufau at defensive tackle. He missed their finale. To get here, LSU did beat Clemson, Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas, Western Kentucky. They lost to Ole Miss by 5, Vanderbilt by a touchdown, Texas A&M by blowout, Alabama by 11, and Oklahoma by 4. They were close to a better season. They lived a lot of coin flip games. This could have been worse. Houston, meanwhile, not a lot of great wins in the Big 12. They knocked off Rice, Arizona, and Arizona State. They also defeated, they had a couple of really close games. Even the Arizona win, 44% post-game win expectancy. Baylor was 31. UCF, they won by a field goal. Their actual losses, Texas Tech, excusable. West Virginia by 10. They had a 70% post-game win expectancy in TCU. So kind of a little up and down for Houston, but definitely a step in the right direction. QB is going to be Michael Van Buren for LSU again. More starting experience than a typical backup. 63% completion. He finished with 4 big-time throws, 7 turnover-worthy plays. I think they kind of hung him out to dry. Took 10 sacks. Wide receivers, they were a problem for Nussmeier. They were a problem for Van Buren. They dropped 10 of Van Buren's passes. That was 11%. These guys are awful. They did not get what they paid for out of Barian Brown, Xavier Thomas. Certainly not Kyle Parker or Chris Hilton. Travis Green was the only bright light. He didn't get enough targets. Bauer Sharp was decent. They could just use more 12 here. But overall, Barian Brown led the team. He didn't even get 500 yards. They were 123rd in rushing, 82nd in receiving. Now, Caden Durham was all right, 4.8 yards per carry. He split with Harlem Berry. While they didn't create a lot of yards after contact on their own, they weren't done a lot of favors. This O-line was 58th in pass blocking, but 133rd in run blocking. They will get back Braylon Moore, their center. He's very good. Their right guard is pretty good next to him, but that's it. And your down guys, like Cone Eccles is in the portal, so Paul Mubenga is probably going to start at guard. Your tackles, Tyree Adams and Weston Davis, were both atrocious this year. Now you're facing a Houston defense, albeit an untested Houston defense, at least at this level. But they were top 30 in the country. They did allow some of the better QBs to have success. Baron Morton, Noah Fafita, Josh Hoover, all above 8 yards per attempt. They didn't really allow a lot in the run game, though. Very good unit up front. Eddie Walls on the edge, Brandon Mack on the edge, Latravian McCutcheon. Inside, Carlos Allen and Khalil Laufau if he can get back. LB's rotated a ton. They were all around average, so nothing to be seen there. They won with their defensive line. And the secondary was pretty good. Jalen Gardner was the best. He kind of was a hybrid linebacker. Will James and Rook Brown were awesome. Latrell McCutcheon and Jordan Allen weren't far behind. So it's a good Houston defense. And, I mean, this LSU offense at the end of the year was struggling against Western Kentucky. So I don't have a lot of optimism. Meanwhile, Connor Wegman, it seemed like the staff kind of got a handle on him late in the season. He can't throw. 16 big-time throws, 17 turnover-worthy plays, 19 sacks. They didn't run him into the ground at the end of the year. He finished with 644 rushing yards. Connor Wegman, who would have thought? He was a little bit behind Dean Connors still, who finished with 851. Dean Connors, good third down back as well, 31 catches. Their offensive pass game kind of revolved around two guys, Tanner Koziel at tight end, 651 yards, and receiver Amari Thomas, 906. No one else had more than 275, and that was the hurt Stephen Johnson. So it's a limited offense. You kind of know who it's going through, but you got to stop it as well. O-line was a real problem for this team, 128th in pass blocking, 80th in run blocking. I mean, Alvin Ebiselli at left tackle, Jason Brooks at center are their biggest weaknesses. Mackenzie Agnello and Matthew Wyckoff are around average. The only one who's pretty good is Dalton Merriman. Now, LSU's defense was 40th with the strength towards their coverage unit. Their D-line was a problem all year. The unit that is most intact is their 97th ranked edge rushing group, Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, and Jamari Butler. Not doing a lot for you. Interior was never their strength. You're rotating like Dominic McKinley, Bernard Gooden, Jacobian Gulleroy. It's weakened by opt-outs. Two of your linebackers aren't going to be there in Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins. So now you go to West Weeks and Devon Keys. Both of them played a bit this year, and both of them were liabilities. And your best corner, Mansour Delane, he's not going to play in this game. And then AJ Halsey's hurt. He might not play. So you're still okay. Like PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett are pretty good, but your weaknesses, like Tamarcus Cooley didn't have a good year. Jardine Gilbert's probably going to start this game. I'm surprised LSU took a little bit of money here. I bet Houston. They have a better special teams, not by much, but they certainly do. So that's where we stand. And that is all 8 games. Thank you guys for watching. Tried to keep it as concise as possible. Did okay. We'll be back again for the Bulls next week as well as the playoff. Until then, good luck. We'll see you guys later.